Welcome to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. Today we have with us Marty Fahncke. For over 30 years, his career, like his life, has been one big adventure. From a frontline order agent in the mid-'80s at what would eventually become the world's largest call center, to becoming one of the pioneers of online marketing, to helping launch the international infomercial business, to finding early success in social media, speaking on stages around the world, and much more. In his career, Marty has successfully sold everything from Elvis's '68 comeback album, to fitness equipment, to real estate, and even entire companies. Some people would use the cliche, work hard, play hard, but Marty actually lives it. From weekend cycling, to climbing Fortiniers in Colorado, to wandering around China on a solo trip. Adventures give Marty a unique insight into how people live, think, and buy. It's part of the secret sauce of why Marty's marketing strategies are so innovative and effective. Thank you for joining me, Marty. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So let's start out just by having you tell me a little bit about your business, Adventurist Inspired Marketing, how you came to be involved in that, and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So at its core, we're a business marketing and coaching and consulting firm, which is something I've done for 20 years now, actually going on 21 years. So we help businesses create marketing strategies and execute marketing strategies that make them more money. And I work with businesses ranging from individual entrepreneurs up to businesses around $80 to $100 million. I don't usually like to work with more companies larger than that. Try to focus on entrepreneurial type enterprises. And in general, in doing that, we've generated over $1 billion in revenue for our clients. And about 5 years ago, some things started happening with my life where I'm a big time outdoor adventure guy. So I'm always out whitewater rafting, climbing a 14er, or swimming, snorkeling in the Florida Keys, you name it. And I started integrating that with my business and taking my clients on outdoor adventures. And one of the things that I found out organically was that their businesses improved the more of that sort of thing we did. So whether it was team building or being more creative, things really made a big difference when we were doing adventures tied to our business strategy sessions. So I formalized that concept in November of 2019 and formed Adventurist Inspired Marketing and officially launched it in January of 2020. A business model designed to to take the combination of my coaching, consulting, and strategic marketing skills and tie them with outdoor adventures, and launched it. And then, obviously some things have happened to change a little bit of the strategy behind what that business will look like in 2020. But the core underlying business of that, which is great strategic marketing, is the same business it's always been for 20 years. It's just been a rebrand that was probably the worst luck from a timing wise of rebranding a business that one could have.
We were talking about that a little bit before the show, so let's touch on that now. How is the current situation with COVID-19, social distancing, all of these new keywords that are coming out and everything? How is this going to affect your strategy? How are you going to have to change to do that?
Well, interestingly, a lot of things are obviously going to have to change with a lot of companies, and the way products and services are delivered are going to be changed, and the way you reach audiences with marketing is going to have to change. On the positive side, the kind of marketing I do, which is primarily television, radio, and online marketing, it's all digital direct response marketing, mixed with some direct mail. The interesting thing there is that there's never been a time in our history that more people have been at home than ever before. So I have a massive audience of people glued to every screen they have. And so from a marketing standpoint, especially the kind of marketing we do, which is all direct response marketing, it's a great time. There's never been a better time to reach an audience that's we always make a cliche about reaching a captive audience, and it's always been a cliche before, and today it's a reality. Obviously, because I do primarily direct response marketing, which is where people purchase a product and have it delivered to their home, it also plays well with what's happening in the world today. Now, the overall economic uncertainty, the overall climate, obviously things have to be done differently. You've got to be strategic. You need to be providing a product or a service that's truly beneficial and not seen as capitalistic or exploitive. But everything I always work with, the types of clients I work with, they're products and services that I can believe in and that truly do help people. And so I feel good about that and bringing those marketing messages into people's homes.
With everything going on, a lot of people that actually do work from home normally, or that are remote workers, or that can actually continue their job from home, this is not going to change for them very much. I'm sure they'll have to work from home for a while. And like you said, you'll have more of a captive audience for a little while. There is a concern with other sectors that they may not be able to purchase as much. They may not be able to consume as much because of the current environment. And they're not getting paid for not working, which
right.
is a sad situation. I know the government's trying to do a lot, trying to implement a lot of benefits here in Canada. The employment insurance is kicking in pretty quickly for those people. They're trying to do a rush on that so they can immediately start getting funds for unemployment, or for basically unemployment insurance while they're unemployed. So the situation is, it's not going to go away quickly.
No.
But everything's slowly being canceled. I also teach project management at a college, and we're moving to online using WebEx starting next week. We've canceled for a week, and then we're going to try to finish the semester out that way. So a lot of people are going to be using their devices a lot more to stay in touch and get information, and always watch for the news and find out how they're going to move forward.
Right. Yeah.
So you're going to have a big collective audience for a while.
Well, for sure. Luckily, in my space, it's all of my services have always been delivered remotely. I've worked from a home office for 20 years. My team all has worked from home offices. I currently manage really 3 different teams right now for major clients, and each team, it varies in size from 4 people to 14 or 15 people, and all of the teams have always been virtual. So it's something that I'm pretty well versed in, and I'm hoping to be able to bring that skill set to people who maybe need some of that help in taking their businesses from a brick and mortar, everybody's sitting in cubicles, to more of a virtual team environment, because there's some different skill sets and some things that are needed to and with on the topic of project management, things like that you are an expert on. I do have a lot of tools and processes and procedures that make a business work better when you don't have that physical proximity. So hopefully some of my consulting will involve probably some of that, not as much strategic marketing, but more strategic planning and virtual teams and things like that. So
it's a good segue, because that's where I wanted to go next anyways, was how do you manage your projects? You say you manage 3 different teams right now. So how are you managing those teams? What kind of tools do you use?
Well, with my clients, most of them tend to be already have a legacy system that they want us to use. So I've got one client that's using Trello as a project management tool. I've got another one that uses Asana. So we have to adapt for the services that we're providing to our clients generally from a tool standpoint. Everybody's got different tools we're using. So we've got QuickBase, we've got Basecamp. Really, you name it. There's so many different tools out there, and all the clients are using all the different things. So we have to kind of adapt to all of those. Of the kind of brand name project management tools out there that we like to keep track of, Asana is probably my favorite, although it has its ups and downs. We use QuickBase. Most of them do. Pardon me?
Most of them do have their ups and downs. You have to.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not going to have everything you need.
Right.
And you're going to have to find, that 80-20 rule. What has 80%? The other 20% you're going to have to live without.
Yeah, exactly.
And find some other way to deal with it.
Yeah, I will say that one of the things that I do differently than a lot of virtual teams or a lot of people do is that I maybe this shows my age too, but I very much I have a saying that I'm famous for that people sometimes give me a hard time with. It's pick up the phone, or pick up the damn phone. I sometimes will watch a Slack thread go back and forth for a half an hour
Yeah.
And, it's like, if you'd have just picked up the phone, you could have solved that in 2 minutes. And so I'm a big believer in like what we're doing right here, which is voice to voice communication or video to, face to face communication. Even if it's virtual, you're looking at each other. So I'm a big believer in daily team calls where, they don't have to be long. They can be, just a quick daily huddle, 10-minute, 15-minute huddle where you get the whole team together, plan out the day, maybe longer weekly. So kind of a rhythm of calls where you have an opportunity to get off of the screen itself and the text conversations and get a little bit of the human voice involved a little bit. And I've seen that really increase productivity. So my favorite project management tool is really the telephone.
That is perfect, because I will tell you, when I teach, I have two pet peeves when it comes to project. One is scope creep and one is communication.
Mm-hmm.
And scope creep as in, which could be resolved and prevented by communication.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I always tell my students: you have to communicate. You have, in a timely manner, do it what's appropriate. And a timely manner isn't always an hour and a half Slack conversation that can be resolved in 2 minutes. So I agree. And just like you, I have many tools I use for my clients. I use Trello for myself, but I have Avasa, Jira, I've used Acello. There's so many different ones, Axosoft. And so you have to adjust to whatever your client's using when you're in that situation. And it seems like we're both in that same situation. And it is a little bit, well, it's good because you learn a lot of skills. And then you also have the opportunity it gives you a backpack of tools if somebody asks your opinion on something as well.
Yeah.
And a good way.
I get people asking me all the time, what's your favorite? I mean, I do, internally we use Asana. And so I guess that's my favorite, but ironically, my favorite project management tool that ever existed was born in 1989 and died in like 1992, and nothing as good has ever existed in my mind. And most people have never even heard of it, but I fell in love with it. And I wish it existed again. It was called the Coordinator, and
I haven't heard of it.
No, nobody's ever heard of it. It was like, I think they had like 30 clients around the world before they went out of business, and it was an amazing tool. And I wish somebody'd resurrect it, but it's kind of funny back in that age. I mean, it was an amazing tool. I mean, it would succeed today if it was too early. It was ahead of its time. So
it makes you wonder what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Where are the people that did that now? And what are they doing?
That's a good question. We don't have LinkedIn, so I can't keep track of them all now. Or we didn't back then. So
yeah, exactly. So what kind of adventures have you taken your clients out on? I know you said you enjoy scuba diving and hiking and all that, but what have you actually done with your clients already?
So it runs the gamut. So we have some clients that are very, very much on board with anything. So we've done like, mountain biking down Pikes Peak at fast as we can to, I mean, all sorts of crazy things like that. So like I said, I've mentioned whitewater rafting, hiking, etc. But we also have done other things that are much more tame, but no less important. So I was just getting ready to put together a group we were going to go fly kites at Golden Gate Park and then ride bikes across the Golden Gate Bridge. So it's not like this crazy, like extreme sport adventure, but it's being outside. It was a team building, project. Now that project's on hold until things, settle down. But that's an example of something that, we might have done for our clients. So all sorts of different things. We've gone pheasant hunting in South Dakota. We've done, like I said, diving in the Florida Keys, snowmobiling in the mountains of Utah. So lots of different things. It's all based on what the size of the client, what their needs are. Are we doing like an annual meeting just for their executives, or are we doing a team building exercise for their entire employment team, or are we doing something for like the whole marketing department? We custom tailor so that it works for everyone.
That's amazing. It involves a lot of aspects of the human mind and the body, and instead of being stuck in a room and looking at either a presentation or a stack of papers, that you actually are able to, I think, open up a little bit more, and you can get a little more of what the customer is actually wanting and needing, and find out a little bit more about them and than you would sitting across the table from them. I'm very proud and excited to announce my first Mastermind for entrepreneurs. I will be focusing on project management and helping entrepreneurs increase their project management skills to increase their revenue. The first one is in April and will be on project change management. To sign up or to find out more information, you can go to thebikerpm.com/entrepreneur-mm. The link is also in the show notes.
Yeah, and this idea was born about 7 or 8 years ago. I'm also a professional speaker, and I was asked to do a presentation for a CEO summit in Montana, and a company hired me to come in and present to a group of CEOs that were all their clients. And so it was really interesting because I was supposed to present on like the evening of the second day, sort of a keynote. And the first day we spent skiing in Montana, and beautiful resort there called Big Sky. It's just north of Yellowstone. And so I spent the day with every member of the audience and going up the ski lift with them, skiing down the slopes with them. And then we had some strategy meetings the next morning. And then by the time it was time for me to do my afternoon keynote, I had such insight to all of their businesses because I was hanging with all these CEOs. And I created my keynote. I totally changed what I was going to talk about, and I customized that keynote for exactly what they had been telling me for a day and a half they were experiencing, and the problems they were having, and the questions that they had. And to this day, it was one of the best speeches I've ever delivered because it was so custom tailored for that audience. The client that hired me has brought me back in several times since then because they were like, that was like amazing. You blew their minds. Like, it wasn't a canned presentation. It was, you literally stood up in front of this audience and solved every one of their problems.
Yeah, you spoke to their minds.
Yeah. And the reason I was able to solve their problems is because I'd spent a day and a half skiing with them to learn what their problems were. So now take me out of the equation and let's just talk about the people. So if there's study after study have proven, let me pull up these stats. So being outdoors, just physically being outdoors, studies prove that you will communicate better, be more creative, improve problem-solving skills, increase self-confidence, and check this one out, boost your immune system. It's an interesting one.
It is, especially in today's world.
It is an interesting one. So, but you think about those. What business owner or entrepreneur wouldn't want better communication, more creativity, better problem-solving skills, and increased confidence from their team? Just by being outside, those things will happen. So even without me being involved in the consulting side or the presenting side or anything else, just by getting these people out of the office, and I'll tell you what, some of the most amazing new business ideas we've had have literally been sitting around a campfire and just talking.
There's so many times that you hear people saying, if you have an issue, you have something you can't think of, get away from your desk, go for a walk outside. Yeah. Clears your head. And it does. It really does. I mean, there are times during the day, I work from home, so I have the opportunity. But I just go in the backyard. Yeah. I just step out the backyard, let the dogs go out and just stand out there for a few minutes and breathe it in. And it does. It kind of refreshes you and it gives you a new perspective on things.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So that's just the act of being outside and the benefits. Then I add on then a layer of adventure to it where I can. And really a lot of that comes from, so I've been a Boy Scout leader for almost 20 years. And one of the reasons that program works so well is that it gives a safe place for kids to fail. And it gives them an opportunity to challenge themselves in a safe environment. And what I've noticed is that adults need that same thing. And so when I take a group out and we go mountain biking, and it's something that some of these people have never done before, and the opportunity to challenge themselves and push themselves and possibly fail and wind up having to get up off the ground and rake themselves and dust themselves off, that stimulation of the adventure part of it also increases creativity and team building. And when we're done with an adventure like that, that team is tight. So,
oh yeah. So let me ask you this: as you're still involved in Boy Scouts, Is that correct?
Mhm. Yep.
So I was in Boy Scouts when I was a kid. I'm
Cool.
from the U.S. Do you guys still go camping and make hobo burgers?
Oh, absolutely. It's a staple. The
Okay.
tinfoil dinners.
Yes, I
Yeah. Oh
make
yeah.
those. I make those at home, and it's like, where did you learn to make these? I'm like, Boy Scouts. It was like throwing the potatoes, the hamburger, and the onions, and all that in there. It's like, yeah, it's like it's great.
It's a great meal. Yeah. Absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's one of my yeah. It's fun to do, and I do it when I go camping a lot too. Still, it's one of the
Good.
things.
Yeah.
I mean, I add spices to it now that I probably didn't when I was in Boy Scouts, just to kick it up a notch. But
Well, I noticed you didn't say carrots. I'm always telling the kid, put carrots in it,
yeah,
but
we
not
never put
everybody likes the
carrots in it
carrot.
when I was in Boy Scouts. I mean, I'm 47, so that was a long time ago, but we didn't put carrots in it.
You didn't put carrots in it?
No, it was
You gotta tell
potatoes.
them now to put carrots in it. At least try and get a little non brown into their meal
Yeah,
where I
well,
can.
it was sliced potatoes, sliced onions, hamburger. So
Yep.
back then, I think it was just salt and pepper, but now there's other things added to it.
A little garlic. Yeah, I gotta put a little
Yeah,
garlic in there.
yeah, exactly.
Oh
So
man, now I'm getting hungry.
right, I'm supposed to make a meatloaf tonight. We'll see.
There you go.
Got to go do that. So, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur in the beginning? I mean, what made you decide to step away and do this? Is it something you've always wanted to do, or how did you do
So
that?
I'm a born entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 12 years old, and I would buy
Selling hobo burgers?
no, I wish. No, I would buy junk bicycles and pipe them together and piece them together and then turn around and resell them. I started selling water purifiers when I was 15 years old, and I've kind of always been an entrepreneur. What got me into what I'm doing today was actually I was working with a company we had started. My background is always been in direct marketing. In that time, it was TV, specifically infomercials. So I've been in the infomercial business since 1986. In the late 90s, deregulation worldwide allowed us to expand the infomercial business from the United States and to every other country. So about 1996, we started that, and we took the infomercial business to 80 countries, and we grew a company from zero to $300 million in 3 years, and in 80 different countries over 3 year time. And it was an amazing time. Interestingly, as I was building that team and creating that business, the CEO of that company made a couple of pretty, like I can say they were bad decisions now, because it tanked the company. It went from zero to 300 million to zero almost overnight. And I found myself in the middle of this amazing group of companies. There are 80 of them in different parts of the world, and all these vendors and everything else. But I wasn't working for a company because it literally went bankrupt overnight. And so I said, well, I can do this on my own. And so I hung out a shingle in 1999, and I said, hey, I'll help businesses grow. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's something I love. It's something I enjoy. I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs, inventors. I've literally looked at probably over 20,000 products that people have had me review to look and see whether does this make sense to put on television, does this make sense to sell online, and how do I do it. And I love helping entrepreneurs grow, and that's really what I've been doing for the last 20 years.
That's great. It seems like it's always been there for you, and it is a great niche to be in, especially
Yeah.
as everything's changed. Like you said, you were started in infomercials, which they're still around, just not as much. And
Totally different business, but yeah, it's
yeah,
really, yeah.
it's now most everything's online. So
Mhm.
so if you have what kind of advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs? I mean, is there besides a piece of advice, like a resource, like a book, or something that you just always look to that inspires you?
A couple of questions in there, so I'll go backwards. So book,
Yep, no, it's perfect.
I'm a huge fan of Robert Cialdini. He's the author of Influence, and there's several different varieties of the book Influence. There's Science and Practice or whatever, but it's essentially the seven the seven principles of influence. And whatever version of his book you get really doesn't matter. Get one of his books, Dr. Robert Cialdini, and Influence will be the core of the title. That book, learning those principles, can help an entrepreneur succeed and market themselves, even if they aren't good marketers, if they just follow making sure they're addressing all 7 of those principles of influence. It will help them market themselves. It will help them promote themselves. It will help them negotiate contracts. It's shocking how many ways you can use those 7 pieces of information that Dr. Robert Cialdini puts in there. I'll tell you, and then to answer the first part of your question, which is, what advice would I give? It's cliche, but I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to tell you a really quick story of why I'm saying it. And the cliche is never give up. I see a lot of entrepreneurs who give up right before they're about to be successful, and it's really a shame. And I'll tell one story, and this is drawing back from my days in the infomercial business. But there was a guy I used to go to. There was a sporting goods fitness and sporting goods show called the Super Show. It was the world's largest sporting goods show. This is back in the 90s, and I would see this guy, and he had this duct taped PVC pipe prototype of his product, and he was going around pitching it, trying to get somebody to take it on. And I saw him, and he was a great guy, and I would talk to him, but it just wasn't going to work for the company I was working with at the time. And I'd see him hauling this thing around, talking to companies. Nothing happened. The next year, I saw him back again, and he ran around. And he had improved the quality of his duct tape and improved the quality of his PVC pipe, and it was still a prototype, and it was still a dream he had. And he brought it around. And he brought it to my company, and we were still not interested. 3 years in a row, I saw him. 3 years in a row, I was, just like I said, he was a nice guy. So I engaged and talked to him, never did business. 2 more years after that, he finally lands a deal. And he landed a deal with probably the premier producer of infomercials in the world at that time. This is a guy who had done $1 billion in the last 2 years, and he got a deal. They spent $500,000 creating an infomercial. They spent another $500,000 finishing the prototype and creating the product. They put it on TV, and it bombs miserably. So now the guy's 5 years into this deal, $1 million in, and he's got nothing to show for it. He comes back to that same conference, and he's like, now it's not a prototype, it's real, and I believe in it. And he does a deal with a friend of mine. And I had a friend at that time who was a design engineer. And he looked at it and he says, I know what the problem is. And he changed a couple of elements about the product, which helped us change a couple of elements about how we marketed the product. And it did $200 million in sales in year 6 and made that guy a multimillionaire. He should have given up on year 2. He should have given up on he certainly should have given up on year 5, but he never gave up, and now he is sitting pretty for the rest of his life. So don't give up.
That's good advice. Too many people, if their first adventure fails, they just think, oh, nothing's going to work, so just walk away and go back, doing my 9 to 5, work for corporate America, do whatever. But just if you believe in what you have and you can show that passion, you can show that belief, eventually you're going to make it.
Passion will get you a very long way.
You're going to find somebody that's going to believe in you and believe in your product as much as you do.
Sure. Absolutely.
So before we close this out, any last words you'd like to say to the audience?
No, just I would just say, keep up the good work that you're doing. I love your podcast. You're addressing a lot of good needs that people need to hear. And I love what you're doing with finding your passion and tying it to your business. It's always something that it's a heck of a lot easier to go to work every day if you love what you're doing. So that's which is where I am. I know you are. And if we can inspire others to do the same, then you're doing good work.
Thank you. So before we sign off, then, how can people get a hold of you and find out more about you? Give us that information, and then we'll let them go.
Yeah, my website is adventuristmarketing.com. That's adventuristmarketing.com. And you can find me there. And I'm also on LinkedIn And I'm not going to try and spell my name. Maybe you can put it in the notes or something.
It'll be definitely be in the notes.
5 times, they still won't get it. So you can feel free to link to my LinkedIn and link to my website. Love to hear from anybody. I'm always willing to help out, and I do. I'll give any entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur a free consultation and see if there's any way we can do business. And if not, then we're still friends. I love meeting new people.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Marty.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group. Until next time.